Research and Learning, which is presented by the eMerge Africa colleagues. And Tony, I'm guessing you'll take the lead for us today.
Yeah, I'm willing to do that. Thank you. So, good. It's interesting to see that it just looks to me like audio is shared by default when you share from one of these tabs or windows. Let's just check and find a window to share rather than yeah, that's much better. Just share a whole window. Good. Okay, I'm going to come back into the chat and just notice where people are joining us from. We have Tony in Cape Town, Naz all the way from South Africa. We have Tanya from Pretoria, Annie from Joburg, Elise from Pretoria. Naz got specific, it's Joburg, yay. Irene from Malindi, Jacob from Wynberg in Cape Town, very specific. Jade from Nelspruit, and Palesa also joining all the way from Cape Town. Marie from Centurion. Anyone else you want to put your location in just to let us know where you're joining from? That might be cool. And I see Fatima has just joined, I guess from Joburg. Cool, good. Thank you everybody and welcome to this session about generative AI tools for research and learning. And we're going to do things in a, let's just say, a kind of slightly atypical way, but in a way that's become quite typical, I think, for FODES. And that way is going to be kind of to keep the humans in the loop the whole way through. Surprising and shocking. So let's just start with one of these waterfalls in the chat with the prompt of how I feel is. Put your message into the text box and just wait until I say go before you send it. So take a few seconds. How are you feeling now? Second day of FODES, maybe you just joined for the first time today. How are you feeling? How's your day going? And then 3, 2, 1, go. How are you feeling? Happy, energized, good, excited, unsure, honest, thank you, tired and excited, all fine. Any other feelings people want to share? Tanya's excited. Couple more. Okay. I'm going to put a prompt here for breakouts. I don't know if I have control of breakouts. I don't think I do.
I think you should have it for me.
Okay,
that
let me
is
see
that
if
I
I
send
can
out
do
the application and write it and write
check it out. Thank you very much. Okay, so I'm going to send people to breakouts and then to ask you in the breakouts, what is your, how's your week going? And what is your favorite Gen AI tool? So hopefully this bit of the chat will persist into the breakout chat as well. So let's have a look here under the share content. Under the share content, I have share files, but I do not have breakout.
Okay, we'll quickly bump it.
Eugenie.
Hello.
was all right to actually do the breakouts.
Yeah, cool stuff. There we are.
Oh,
but
okay, I thought I did them too early.
I see we have the presenters now, Irene and Tony together. Then there's 5 participants in one group and 7 in another. What was your criteria for splitting?
It was just a randomization.
Okay. Yeah, I wonder how many people he wanted in a group. And how long
didn't
he
say.
wanted them there. Maybe
Okay, I'll just ask him in the
send him a
chat.
message. Yes,
Yes.
perfect. Cool. Thanks, Christine. Auntie or Lee, if you guys want to join the groups, you can from your side, right? If you want to actually actively participate.
Yeah. Thanks, Eugenia.
Yeah, we know. Thank you, but I think I'm
Sorry
just
for
going to
pointing out
rest
the
here.
I'm so thankful that Christine didn't automatically throw us into the groups.
Yeah, no, I'm also very, very thankful for that.
How were your sessions yesterday, Anki? Did you chair?
Yes, I did, and it was good. So she was very, pressed for time at the end. So luckily, I didn't have to pose questions and stuff like that. So it was good.
Yeah.
So now today I have Prof. Kron here as well. So because that's usually what do you call it, Marie's session. So I'm a little bit concerned, but we'll see.
No, it will go well. Is it a panel session?
Yeah, it is an interview AI bot sociologist or something like that.
No worries. No,
Yeah.
I think that will be a good one.
I see Annie joined us. Annie, what is your favorite AI tool that you are using?
Hi, good morning. I'm so sorry. I got kicked out when the break room started, so I only managed to rejoin now. But yeah, I think ChatGPT is like a rule of thumb. It's always opened on one of my tabs in the browser. Microsoft the Copilot, but I've noticed that it's not as flexible as enough as ChatGPT. But those are the two tools that I would personally use.
That's great to hear. What do you use frequently, Eugenie?
I'm also definitely on board the ChatGPT bandwagon. And last night, as I was preparing for something else, I played a bit with Skyworks AI generated PowerPoint creator, and that was very nice. Yeah. So increasingly, because I don't want to spend time on doing the creative design of PowerPoints, yeah, I think Skyworks one was nice, but I've got the free version for that one. Gamma also very nice, but a person runs out of credits, unfortunately. Yeah. For you, Anki?
No, I'm more old school, so I only use GPT. But in any case, I don't know. The Skyworks sounds very interesting. So is it easy to work with that?
It is. You can upload a document and ask it to create a PowerPoint from it. You can upload a script if you have one. You can literally just have a few keywords, and still it makes an exceptionally beautiful PowerPoint. You can ask for all kinds of interactions, and there's templates for color schemes, all kinds of things. I see Mijaji has just joined us. Welcome, Mijaji.
I wonder if
In one of yesterday's How Cool Is That sessions, I don't know, Annie, if you were maybe in that session, it was Karen who spoke about apps for young learners, and there were such nice ones. Google has an app called Read Along, and it's
Yes.
for small children. Oh, you were there? Were you there?
Yes, I was. It was quite interesting. Even though I come from the private higher education space, and our organization does have the schools division, I think it's very important for them to understand those specific tools that will actually help the earlier learners in terms of, especially when it comes to reading. That I found absolutely amazing.
Because I was thinking like Anki is a gran, or in my case with the smaller children, there were a number of those apps, Experience AI, the Google Arts and Culture games, that I definitely want to have a look at for my kiddos.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't have kids, but my nieces and nephews are quite young. And I mean, some as young as 2 and 3. That would be something that I would definitely want them to start, engaging with, because I think it's very key for young minds to start utilizing, technology, because I mean, that's the way the world is going. Before you know it, some of the tech apps that we use in tertiary would then be used in at the kindergarten and the primary levels.
Well, I couldn't agree more. Welcome back, everyone.
Welcome back, everyone.
Are you with us?
Are you with us?
I also have an
I
echo
also
on
have
my.
an echo on my.
I'm going to sign off and
Sign off and. I think it's like one person should take the mic at a time. Maybe that's the way to do it. But I can't think of any other response. Echo, 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 echo. Right. So thank you, everybody. Okay, the link to the presentation is in the chat. I want to ask my colleagues Irene and Jakob, if when we go through the slides, there are URLs in the slides, if you can share those URLs in the chat, so people will have access to them in the chat if they want to open a window for themselves. Okay, so let's keep going. And now I'm going to ask you to join us in a little Slido thing where you can either use the QR code at the top right-hand, left-hand corner, or you can go to slido.com and join at that hashtag and name your favorite generative AI tools for research, learning, and teaching. And the poll is active now. So I'll give you a minute to get to slido.com or to activate the link using the QR code, which you could use from your phones as well. So one participant's typing already. Thank you, Irene. SciSpace, Notebook LM, Elicit, Perplexity. Can you name one at a time? Because then we can actually see who actually likes the specific tools. You can post as many as you want, but one at a time, please. ChatGPT, GPT-5. We're the latest. Lots of ChatGPTs coming up here. Okay, Notebook LM is getting bigger. Let's get a few more. The ChatGPTs are dominant. I hope in a good way. ChatGPT generically and specifically in little other posts as well, spelled slightly differently. Notebook LM. So basically it's ChatGPT followed at quite some distance by Notebook LM and SciSpace. Gemini features as well, Elicit's there, Perplexity's there. One or two more. Okay. Right, so we know what the scene is. We know that most people are using ChatGPT a lot, and that other tools for research and learning are starting to come up, like Notebook LM, ChatGPT, SciSpace, Perplexity a bit, Elicit a bit, Jenny, interestingly, a bit as well. And yeah, so we'll talk about Jenny a bit as we go further in. So let's go on. Okay, so the plan, we have the welcome and opening. We talked a little bit about our favorite tools. what I'm going to do now is do a demo of several tools with time for a little bit of discussion as we go through. Then I've tried to allocate up to 15 minutes of playtime where we can do what we want. We can experiment, we can use it as stretch time as well when we think about what we're doing, a bit of a physical break built into that as well, and play and experiment. And then we come back, we have some conversation, and we talk about this whole issue of cognitive offloading, and then we close. Because that's what we have to do. Right. And you may find it interesting that I tried to ask most of these AI engines that I'm working with to think about the impact of generative AI in cognitive development in educational settings, whether there are negative effects on critical thinking, problem solving, and creativity, and whether there are any mitigating strategies, any ways we can address these problems if these problems exist. Because I think we're going far too much, gee whiz, isn't this marvelous? Aren't some good things happening? And largely what we do is we skate over the bad things that happen as well, and the things that happen if we're not actually doing this well. So let's start off with Notebook LM, which has been available for not that long from Google. It was on their labs even say a year and a half ago, and they've been doing successive waves of improvement and upgrades to Notebook LM, even to the free version of it. They call it your research and thinking partner, grounded in the information you trust, built with the latest Gemini models. The important thing here is that you give it the information. You give it the information that you regard as reliable. You don't rely on the AI to go and find information for you. You are your own guarantor of the quality of the information that you're sharing. And that according to the current conditions of Notebook LM, you are not required to share your information with Google. It's in a little bubble within the Google system that is your bubble. This may change in the future, but so far that's what it is. So Notebook LM, essentially what you do is you create notebooks, you upload resources, you find overviews, you ask questions about your resources, and you can do a bunch of other stuff as well. And somebody else who recommended Notebook LM in the favorites, could you please decide if you want to take the mic and tell us what you can do with Notebook LM? One of the people who loves Notebook LM. 3, 2, 1. Okay, I'll keep going. Janine, talk to us. What can you do with Notebook LM?
Hi, Tony. Nice meeting you. I think there's an echo. Is it fine? It's
I'm not
still
getting an
there.
echo. I switched my mic off.
It's still there.
I think talk with us anyway.
I'll put it in the chat.
I'll give you a minute for that. Okay, let's see what you put into the chat, Janine. Looking at the chat. Okay, so Janine, what can you do with Notebook LM? What are the most important things for you? Podcasts of my own article, e.g. when I have given or to give a talk at a conference. Interesting. We'll talk about that in a minute. That's a very good use. Okay, so what can you do with Notebook LM? Podcast gives a wider perspective of what my results mean, because I am asking the AI to give a analysis, synthesis, which may include stuff I haven't seen. That's clever. Okay, so what can you do? You can upload resources, you can talk to your resources, you can save notes as resources, you can generate study guides, you can make audio podcasts, you can make video overviews, you can produce flashcards, you can make a quiz, you can generate a mind map. There are so many things you can do with Notebook LM. What I'm going to try doing now, given that I'm sharing my whole screen, is to see if I can actually get to, yes, let's see what I can do here. This is interesting. Why have I gone there first? Perplexity. Let's go to Notebook LM, the order which you're doing things. Whoa, Naz, I like asking it to give me summaries of big documents, so I have a basic understanding and things to look out for as I read the document. Another very strategic use. Okay, so I'm sharing an application. I'm going to stop sharing that specific application. So I can't just change on my screen. I have to actually stop sharing the application here. Let's stop that one, and start something new as well. So share application or screen, and here we are sharing that Notebook LM. Okay, so this is what my Notebook LM looks like. Okay, so they give you featured notebooks that you can play with. And then I've got my own recent notebooks for different things. And one of them is on the cognitive costs of AI integration. You know, like they do with the cooking programs. They'll take you through parts of the recipe and then say, here's one I made earlier. And that's exactly what I'm doing now. Okay, and I'm not sure if I did what I should do with the sharing, if I've actually shared audio from the share as well. I think let me just stop this and restart the share and make sure that I've shared audio as well, because it's going to be important in a minute. Okay, so also share audio, right? Here we are. Got it, good. Okay, so I've got 20 sources here, which I have uploaded from different places. I did searches in Google Scholar. I did searches with Perplexity. I did searches from Notebook LM as well. Got a whole bunch of articles here and have uploaded them. I could, if I wanted to, upload also a YouTube video or a web page, various other things. Lots of things are possible here. And what it did is automatically produce for me a little summary of the 20 sources. What are the things that are important here? What are the issues that arise? The whole thing about how does Gen AI affect cognition, education, social integrity? I think they mean the integrity of assessment and things like that. The warnings about cognitive offloading, if you offload the wrong things, eroding skills like memory retention, critical thinking, etc. The importance of ethical and governance issues, and what you can do in order to mitigate these harms. Okay, cool. So we've got all that stuff. And then the studio on the right-hand side have generated a number of things. One of them is a mind map. Let's open this up, of all 20 articles. I hope this is going to, it's going to do a new generation of a mind map. That's not good. That is not going to be helpful. Let me use the map I've already generated. Here's one I did earlier, of course. Okay, so here we go. Augmentation versus atrophy paradox. So there's a lot in some of the articles about the neurocognitive mechanisms and memory. And there's something about cognitive offloading. If I click on cognitive offloading. In fact, actually, I was thinking about it a couple of days ago. I was thinking of cognitive load shedding, which I think might be relevant locally, but might sound weird in the international literature. So what it then does is to open for you a little window about cognitive offloading and explain the cognitive offloading in relation to particular sources. So you could then actually find the quotes in the sources. You could then go, okay, so what's the source here that's relevant? Okay, and what's coming up here in that source? Guides you to the relevant part of that source. Let's minimize this again. Let's go back to our studio. What you also can do is to produce an audio summary of what's going on here. Let's just check. Here we are. Here's a nice audio summary, but using smaller number of sources.
Welcome to the debate. Welcome. So the speed at which generative AI has moved from being a research curiosity to, well, a tool in the classroom, it's triggered some pretty fundamental questions about the future of learning. We're discussing today the structural impact of this integration, specifically on student cognitive development. You know, does the reliance on these systems pose an unavoidable structural risk to core human faculties like critical thinking, creativity, metacognition that maybe ultimately outweighs the clear benefits we see in productivity and personalization?
Right. Well, I come at it from let's say, a different perspective. I argue that this integration carries a profound, really fundamental risk.
Okay, so Elise, actually I'm using a paid version, but you can produce these audio overviews in the free version. You don't have to pay extra to Google to be able to produce audio overviews. There are some things in terms of the number of audio and video artifacts you can produce which are unique to the paid version. So you can only have one active audio or video overview in the free version at a time. If you want to do another one, what you need to do is to download the one you got, so you've got stored somewhere else, and then produce a new one. With the paid version, you can produce a lot more of them and have them available simultaneously. So you could, for example, very easily produce versions of the video in several different languages. So let's actually have a look at one of the video overviews and see how this one goes. And play.
Okay, so generative AI, it's literally everywhere, right? It's helping us write, code, and create things faster than we ever thought possible. But what's the real price we're paying for all this convenience? What actually happens to our own brains, our ability to think, to learn, to remember, when we start handing over all the mental heavy lifting to a machine? All right, let's get into it. Wow, this quote, it just hits you, doesn't it? It gets right to the very heart of a massive debate that's going on right now. The idea is that the very act of using AI to make our lives easier might actually be robbing us of something crucial: the struggle. You know, that mental sweat that's so essential for real learning and for building up actual expertise? And yeah, this right here is the central conflict. On one hand, you've got this incredible, undeniable promise. We can be so much more efficient, so much more productive. But on the other hand, there's this growing chorus of concern coming from educators and cognitive scientists, and they're warning us that if we're not super careful, we might be making a really bad trade, swapping our long-term critical thinking skills for some short-term convenience. So let's dig into that first big idea, this concept of outsourcing thinking. And look, this isn't just some casual chat people are having. This is a dead serious, urgent academic debate happening right now in universities all over the world as they try to figure out how on earth to handle this new technology. So you've got this group of academics who wrote a paper basically sounding the alarm. They're saying, whoa, hold on a second. It feels like a lot of schools are just rushing to adopt AI, maybe getting swept up in all the hype from the tech industry, without really thinking through the risks.
Okay, so this is a sample from a little video overview. And I think what you're going to find interesting here, if we go back to the main menu for the studio, is to look at what it is that you can actually do with this video overview. So for example, it should be coming up now, giving you the options. Whoops, sorry, let's do this one. This does it much easier. Okay, so you have choices that you can make about what goes into the video overview. How long it's going to be. Is it going to be explainer? Is it going to be very brief? You can choose a language for the video overview. Those language choices are available currently in the free version. Mostly they are European and Asian languages. So for example, I think it even goes as far as Basque language. But we haven't got any African languages there yet except Kiswahili. But I'm sure there'll be more African languages coming. And then the choice of visual style is basically on the free access, you have classic style, but with the paid access, you have whiteboard, retro, heritage, papercraft, anime. So, I mean, I've actually had quite fun playing with the anime style as well, which produces some results that are rather unusual. And then they ask you, what should the host focus on? Put in stuff around the topic, what do you want the host to focus on? And to make it more academic, I would also put in something about requesting that sources be cited in the video. And I think that makes it more interesting and more useful if you're trying as a student or a researcher to make sense of what you've got with this massive quantity of articles and to see which of the articles are cited and referred to specifically. I'm not going to generate another one now because I don't think we've got time for that. But, you know, a lot of stuff going on with Notebook LM. And there is a website called XDA where over the last few months, there have been a pile of short articles about how people use Notebook LM in partnership with lots of other things. How do you use Notebook LM Perplexity? How do you use it with ChatGPT? How do you use it with one of several other tools? How do you use it for different applications? How do you use it to help you as a learner? And one of the ways you use it to help you as a learner potentially is that you may actually prepare some flashcards. And let's have a look at the flashcards. So producing questions that come out of the articles. What term describes the finding that any involvement of AI in a writing task impairs a user's source memory? Okay, which human AI workflow most severely impaired the source memory for ideas? What does source memory refer to? Etc. Okay, so you've got the flashcards and you also got a quiz. You can also prepare a quiz. Whoops, sorry, I'm starting to generate a new quiz. Let's go and find the quiz that I've already got. Where is this quiz that I've got? Flashcards. Here's the quiz, right. Should load quickly. In the study on the AI memory gap, under what condition were the odds of correctly attributing the source of an idea most significantly reduced? Okay, so put your answer into the chat. Which of these conditions made it least likely that the student would be able to attribute the source of the idea? Okay, and let me make this a bit bigger, perhaps. What do you think? Is it where the idea and elaboration were generated by the hosts? Is it when the idea originated from AI but was elaborated by the human? Which of these options makes it least likely that the person could attribute the source of the idea? I'm patient. I'm not leaving until we got some answers here in the chat to everybody. Is it this one? Is it that one? Which is it? Or somebody please make a guess and talk to us. Hello, anyone there? Suspects he has been talking too long. Oh, wow. Haha, Naz. So what do you think the answer is, Naz? Naz is reading. I hope other people are reading as well. Anyone else wants to put in an answer? Feel free to do that. You will not be marked on this. Okay, so Naz says it's either A or C. Jade says it's C. Under what condition were the odds of correctly attributing the source of an idea most significantly reduced? And the answer is A, when the idea and the elaboration were generated by the human being. The odds of correctly attributing were most significantly reduced when the idea and the elaboration were generated by the human. And next, the generational cognitive atrophy loop framework proposes that AI over-reliance leads to a recursive decline in human cognition. What is the key mechanism of the loop that leads to a decline in human cognition? What's the answer here? The answer is C. Very good, Fatima. Thank you. Okay, so let's actually stop that, and we should move on to something else next. Yeah. So maybe stop this share and go back to that presentation. Okay. Here we go. So we talked about Notebook LM. Next, we're going to talk about perplexity. And there are people here who love perplexity. Who is it who loves perplexity and wants to say something about what's wonderful about perplexity? Feel free to talk or go into the chat, whichever you prefer. Naz, there is a shareable doc. This doc I can share for you from Perplexity, which will come up in a second. So the thing about Perplexity, which I think is really nice, is that they're much more serious than ChatGPT, and they are much less delusional, hallucinatory than ChatGPT. And they're very good on linking statements to sources. Okay, so let's go on with that. And you can produce a quick search. You can do deep searches. I would not take their deep searches as final answers. I think if you're doing the human in the loop thing, you still need to check out whether the resources that they're citing are credible or high quality. You get to decide. Nice thing about Notebook LM, by contrast, is that you only work with the resources you think are of sufficient quality. You can produce research pages online from Perplexity. You can summarize documents, and you can make documents and other artifacts as well. So let's go on to talking about Perplexity in more detail. Let's check it out. I love this switch, this little switch that we do all the time. Okay, application screen, Perplexity, yes. Okay, so this should come up here. Okay, let's just see what's going on here. Yeah, it did come up. If I switch my screen to another tab, will that also come up with a delay? Let's see. That's sad. Oh my God, yes, we'll talk about that in a second. Okay, so with Perplexity, you have this interface. And you can tap into different kinds of knowledge, and they're doing feeds on that. You can create workspaces. So, for example, you can have a workspace on a particular topic or a particular kind of question where you actually have documents there all the time, including a kind of master prompt for how you want the work to be focused and prioritized. But, you know, when you go into this interface here, you can do searches, fast searches, or pro searches. Even on the free Perplexity, you have a certain number of free searches per day. So they don't cut you out of that. And you could go for deep research. They give you a small number of deep research sessions per day on the free version as well, which goes deeper, looks in more detail. And then you can create projects, including even, I think, some coding projects, and you can generate documents, slides, dashboards, etc. Okay, so I mean, I've been paying for a lot of the stuff. I always think, you know, I'll pay a bit in ahead, but I'm not necessarily committed to always paying for these things. I'll get as much value as I can from them, then reassess. Okay, so I noticed that I can't switch tabs. If I switch tabs, it doesn't actually change on the what's shared with you. So I'm going to have to go back and do another reshare, which is hell of a awkward, but that's just how it goes, folks. Okay, let's do this. Application screen. Here we are. So what we got here is a piece of research or kind of overview that I asked for Perplexity to do about the impact of generative AI on cognitive development, etc. And what it did was to tap into 115 sources in order to decide which ones to use and to then produce this report. What I can do is I can share this, anyone with the link, and copy the link, fine, and I'm going to go into the chat so you can see this report for yourselves and see how useful or useless it is to you in the chat to everybody. Okay, and it does give a fairly comprehensive answer. It does a lot of things. Okay, right. And okay, it picks up on erosion of thinking skills, impact on problem solving, issues around creativity, and then what happens when you use Gen AI constructively with appropriate guidance and support. The trouble is that there isn't enough appropriate guidance and support within the education system generally. And I think this is part of the problem that we are facing. Okay, so I think that's enough for now about Perplexity. And we're just going to move back to the presentation. Okay, here we go. So, and then Perplexity just released a new browser called Comet, which means that they're going into direct competition with Google and with Microsoft and with everyone else. And that's the difference that Fatima talked about. Comet introduces the agent. Let's go into the chat. That's able to emulate your persona. I'm not sure that I'd enable this feature yet. Isn't there a huge privacy concern? And you are so right, Fatima, that they're promising you an AI personal assistant and that you can delegate information and organizing tasks to your agents. Lots of other people trying to do that as well. Very few have integrated that into a browser. But as you say, there may be some privacy issues. I mean, what I would tend to do might be to experiment with Comet, but within a very narrow range of areas and tasks, and not to share anything too personal or confidential with the Comet browser, and then to go into obviously go into the settings and reduce the sharing with Perplexity in terms of their databases after my query as much as possible, and probably to actually delete a lot of queries after you have made them. I'd be very careful about this. A lot of people are very excited about it, though. So yes, the welcome screen is so freaking cool, says Naz. But it's interesting to figure out what happens beyond that welcome screen. Next, we look at consensus. If anyone has used consensus, can you raise your virtual hand if you've used consensus yet? Give you a few seconds for that. Consensus has been around for a little while. Thanks, Irene, for always sharing URLs. It's been around for a while, and it's a very cool tool. If you're going to say, I don't know about something, I want to quickly sample, say, 20 items from the literature and get a sense of whether there is any kind of consensus here. Is there a consensus? Is there no consensus? And you can do a fast search. You can do a pro search, which gives you a little analysis of 20 papers. I think that may only be on the paid version. And then you can do a deep search, definitely on the paid version, that gives you a literature review of what consensus rates through its algorithm as the top 50 papers. And you get some good stuff out of that. So let's go into consensus in a little bit more detail. I'll show you one that I did earlier. Here we go, into consensus. Right, I'll show you the opening screen, and then I'll do another share. In fact, let me just do this. Let me just do this one because of all the changes around. Okay, application screen. Okay, and in consensus, I did a search about impact of Gen AI and cognitive development. We do a lot of this kind of stuff just to show that as we play with these tools today, we're looking at what's interesting, what's potentially useful. Okay, I'm going to share what I got here with you as well. Okay, right. Anyone put a link? And I'm going to share this. I'm wondering if this is what. No, that's a Perplexity thing I'm sharing. That's not fair. Okay, let's go into the. Let's go into the consensus. I got too recursive. This is not okay. That level of recursiveness is confusing to people. Not good. Okay, here we are, consensus. Here we go. Right. It should be coming up very soon. There's always a little bit of delay. Right. So does the use of Gen AI undermine the cognitive development of learners and students? So let's do the share, make it publicly visible, copy the thread link into the chat, and here we are. Okay, so the link is there now. So it says, okay, we look at 50 sources and we go, no, current evidence does not support the claim that Gen AI use broadly undermines cognitive development. Indeed, it tends to enhance cognitive skills when used with appropriate guidance and safeguards. And that's the problem we have. Is there enough guidance? Are there enough safeguards? And they produce a consensus meter. They say, yes, we have a problem undermining cognitive development. Possibly, no. Mixed evidence from these four. yeah, not enough evidence, and then no. 79% of the sources, 19 articles say no when they did that search on the top, the thing on the top, on 24 articles where they could actually ask that question specifically. And they have this whole search strategy. They identify likely articles, okay, up to thousands of them. Indeed, it's a really nice one, Annie. They screen the articles, they say which are eligible, which have high semantic relevance, and they select the top papers, and they work from that. So all the results here, you've got a results timeline. You have the top contributors and journals, you have a discussion, and then, as Annie is saying, you have a claims and evidence table. For each of the claims, is the evidence strong? And what's the reasoning? And which of the papers are linked to here that are relevant? So I could go to paper number 14, and it gives you an abstract, it gives you a snapshot. You can go through to the full text of that paper as well. I'm not going to show you right now, but I did another one, which is, are omega-3 fish oils useful for cardiac health? And there was very strong evidence in favor of omega-3 fish oils, particularly with people who have cardiac issues. So sometimes the table of, here we are, the chart showing the consensus meter will show a very strong for the proposition. Sometimes it shows against. It's just about the articles it's able to tap into. I suspect that there are questions that you can ask about this one, including, okay, folks, so what about the fact that these articles being skeptical about generative AI are only coming out very recently? Up until now, it's mostly been about the benefits and mostly been from people who are looking for benefits and creating conditions that would generate benefit. So it could be that if you did that search in articles over the last 2 years, rather than over the last 5 years, you'd find the percentage of articles that are asking these questions would be somewhat higher. Yeah, Fatima, the research databases are not all equal. It tends to use Semantic Scholar a lot. Most of these AI research tools do go that way and use databases of open research rather than the stuff from the proprietary journals. And so you have a problem. So you can't use this as your sole source of articles that you're going to use to write your article. You need to be very careful about that kind of stuff. Okay, so next we're going to move to SciSpace. And I think I'm going to move straight across in the tabs here and then do a switch rather than use the presentation. Let's close this one. Let's open that one. Here we go, SciSpace and share. Whoa. Okay, so this is a cool one. Yes, NAS, a note on Perplexity's terms of services. You grant us a license to access, use, host, cache, store, reproduce, transmit, display, publish, distribute, and modify your content. So in some way, you're still the commodity. I'll go and have a look and see if I can actually restrict that with the paid membership. So we have a problem here. Yes, indeed. With all of these tools, there is a potential problem of the information being used as samples, part of their customer research, and potentially to feed the training of their models as well. So SciSpace, some people love SciSpace. SciSpace is one of those compendium tools where you can do almost anything. Say, give me a task, let's work on it. Okay, so you get, you get very few credits for agents on the free membership. On the paid membership, you get a few more credits for agents, but you can exhaust those very quickly. But if you want to do a normal search, you're not necessarily using the agents. So let's have a look here at some of the things that you can do. You can search papers, you can look at specific databases, you can tap into Google Scholar even, which is useful because it means that you can tap into abstracts of proprietary papers as well. You can make things, websites, presentations, data visualizations, etc., interactive apps even. But that slurps up your credits for agents very fast. You'll see on the left you can actually do writing with it, which is, I think, in some ways quite problematic. You can chat with PDFs. You can do sample literature reviews. You can find yourself topics. They have an agent gallery, which is scarily comprehensive about the things you can do. Whoops, minor issues. This is not good. Let's go back and see if we can actually get that agent gallery coming up. You can do all kinds in relation to citations, in relation to the ways that you manipulate your data, etc. Well, it turns out this looks like SciSpace has gone down, but let's see if we can do something with it again. Here we go. So you can actually get reviews. You can get patent landscape analysis. I know somebody who actually does patent searches for a living. I must ask him if we can check this out. Okay. Literature review generators, text screening, will plan your thesis, build a clear timeline, create a researcher profile, okay, analyze the risk of bias in what you've got there, help you write grants, etc., etc., etc. A lot of stuff going on here. A lot of things that they have which are about the entire research cycle, but I wouldn't use everything that they do. I would not do that because there's a risk that you actually get the AI to think and write for you, which is ethically and cognitively problematic and potentially professionally career limiting as well. Okay, so let's have a look here as well and see what we've got. I'm just going to do a quick switch again. Share content, unshare that content, share different content. Okay. Did another one about the research impact of generative AI. With a very similar question. And what's interesting here is the way they take you through the different steps of a process. They start the comprehensive research, they do primary searches, and they show you which databases they use. They do a summary of the primary researches, how many articles they're tapping into. They're tapping into here 240 articles. They do a deep search. They find 283 relevant papers. They extract insights, and they create a comprehensive report. And then I also asked them to make a website from this. So let's have a look at the outputs here that we got here. And this was, so you've got the dashboard, which has got all the stuff about the report, the basics about the report. Here's the comprehensive report. Let's go here. Quite a useful executive summary and information. Okay. And here's their little dashboardy type website. How many studies did we look at? How many types were there, etc.? How are they distributed in terms of the confidence of the results? Okay, what are the negative effects, documented negative effects? What are the documented positive effects? Okay, what are the mitigation strategies? What are the research trends? Okay, so I mean that's it for me for SciSpace, which I think is quite phenomenal, but I think also overpowering and a bit too much, and probably less overpowering with the free use of SciSpace. So it's less likely your students who are not going to pay for SciSpace will not get SciSpace to write everything for them. But the trouble is that there's always a group of students who have the means and are willing to pay for the full use of particular tools? Okay, yes, indeed. How does one resist that almost compelling prompt from the LMM to assist you further, which then veers onto thinking for you? Such a slippery slope. How do we get our students to put in the brakes? And there is a question here which is really kind of raises the issue that we want students to be able to use these tools at the most as thinking partners and more likely as research assistants. The paradox here is that we would know what to ask a research assistant to do, but our students wouldn't know what to ask a research assistant to do if they barely know how to do research. So we certainly have a problem here. So there's a need for a lot of guidance, a lot of support. Okay, so let's go on to something else here, ChatGPT in study mode. Stop that share, start new share. I think this is the kind of thing that can be edited out of the video. Okay, let's see. Application screen, ChatGPT. Maybe I need to do this one instead. Here we go, study mode. So what I did with ChatGPT was to ask it to teach me about the solar system. This should be coming up now. And it's interesting, the first thing it says is, what do you know? What level of detail do you want? What are you looking for? So answer, I'd say, please start broad and then dive into debates. Okay, let's go step by step. So it gives a little explanation of the solar system, the simple structure, and then asks a question. Do you know the difference between a planet and a dwarf planet? And I make a guess. Okay, maybe a planet's above a certain size, anything less becomes a dwarf planet. It says that's a starting point. It's about size and behavior, draws on the International Astronomical Union definition of planets in 2006. Criteria for the definition: orbits the sun, it's spherical, it's cleared its orbit. And a dwarf planet doesn't make the third one. So the debate heats up. What might be controversial about that rule? Why might this be a problem to some scientists? And I think about it a bit and I think, okay, maybe because large planets have lots of debris and moons as well, and maybe they don't meet that criterion. Okay, it says, oh, it likes how I'm thinking, it talks about this stuff, but it's about dominance. A planet clears its orbit if gravity controls the region, and it talks more about the critics of these definitions, etc. And goes on to different ways of thinking about definitions. Okay, how does this apply to Pluto? And I say, well, I don't know, talk about this. So it gives me a whole story about Pluto, etc. Okay, so you see what's going on here. There's a whole conversation happening. And you would get something very similar from Gemini, which also has learning or study mode. And you would get something very similar from Claude, which also involves you in a learning conversation. So let me just stop all the sharing and see if you've got any comments or questions at this moment. All the other URLs are in the presentation where the link has been shared with you. And maybe what we need to do is to reshare that link. Just resharing the link. No, that's another link. So Irene, if you could reshare the link. Okay, Naz, how do you get to study mode? So let's go there. Let's go back there and say, let's have a new chat in ChatGPT. I'm going to reshare that screen. Okay, share application screen. Here we go. Thanks for resharing the presentation link. Okay, so I'm going to say new chat. And it says, ask anything. Open this plus sign and says, study and learn. And it gives you some examples of the kinds of things that it can help you with. Help me with my homework, explain a topic to me, create a practice quiz. And if you ask it for help with your homework, then it will try to take you through it step by step and ask you questions and check out your understanding and what you think the next step is. So it's not going to give you all the answers. In fact, there are a small number of institutions which have chosen to make ChatGPT available for their students or learners in study mode only. So that means that they only get to see the operation of ChatGPT through their institution in a way which is experimenting and in a way which actually provides them with a bit of tutorial. So how delusional is this? So far, I haven't found anything delusional in study mode. And the thing about study mode is that you're not likely to ask the kinds of questions that are going to make things generate delusions and get the system to delude with you. Yeah, I think that would be interesting to do those experiments and to see if you can actually push the system to delude in study mode. I haven't heard about that yet. Okay, so that's all I have for you in terms of the potential tools. I see there's more in the chat. I've seen what's going on there. That's good. Let's share application back to the, what have we got here? Actually happen to have closed that presentation. That's not a very good thing to do. Let's see if I can get back to it. Here we go, got it. Right, share. And let's just keep moving on there. Okay, so we can see that. We've got that up here. We've gone through these things here. Yeah. And I mean, I had a section here marked time to play. I know we finished at 11:25. If that can be confirmed, yes. Thank you very much there. So just having a look at the program, we are down until, sorry, 10:25. It's another 13 minutes. So in terms of what we can do now, maybe a time to think a little bit about what's going on, what the possibilities of the tools are, and maybe pick one tool and just play with it a bit. And then we'll reconvene in 8 minutes' time. Yeah, Fatima, for many tools you can do that. Yes, I think, you know, the whole thing about ChatGPT is that if institutions are using it anyway and the students would use it in any case, regardless of what you tell them, then maybe what you need to do is give enough guidance in order to minimize the risks. I think that might be part of the story. I think you could do some of these things with Notebook LM where you could actually upload all of the resources for a particular course where you know these are validated materials, and then ask Gemini within Notebook LM to guide you through a particular topic or concept, etc. Okay, so have a look, see what you want to experiment with, do a little experiment. There should be enough time to try one or two things out, and then we'll get back together at 10:20. Thank you. Okay, everybody, time is fleeting. If you want in the chat, please just say something about what you explored and how that went. And then we'll move on to the closing for this workshop. Or if anyone especially wants to take the mic, you're welcome to do so. Okay, I'll take a look at the chat. Okay. Without any further hesitation, I will then move on to the closing section. Here, NAS explored consensus, pretty cool. Merged AI overview and Google Scholar, interesting. Jakob, yeah. SciSpace is impressive in free mode until your credits run out. This is true for many of these tools. Any other responses from the exploration? Let's get one or two. Okay, so let's move on to the closing. It's been fun. It's been intense. So something I want to explore is there anything you want to explore more after this? Yeah. So come to the chat and enter your message in the chat box and maybe just send it when you're ready. What do you want to explore more after this? SciSpace, more video generation AI, interesting. Notebook LM, not ML. Okay. SciSpace is this incredible compendium tool. The person who talked about Jenny earlier, you can say in some ways it's very comparable to Jenny. Irene, SciSpace and Notebook LM. Paid content with SciSpace. Jenny AI, human in the loop, okay. Right, and let's keep going. Final question in our closing is, what are your takeaways? What are your insights? What's the knowledge you're taking away with you that you think will be useful to you? We've got a couple of minutes for this. Your takeaways, your insights, you can do one at a time if you like, or you could do a sentence or two, up to you. Choice is yours, colleagues. Different modes for different tools. Training mode and different components. Thanks, Jade. Janine, so much to explore and play around with, absolutely. And that's before you can really think about, is this going to work with my students? Or is it just for me? Which is an option. Janine agrees. Eugenie, sometimes it delights me, other times it terrifies me. Yes. Lots of choices with positive and negatives. Need to look at privacy, etc. Thanks, Elise. Irene, approach this with an open mind. Couple more. Any other insight or knowledge that you're taking away with you? Fatima, being mindful of the vendor lock-in, issues of access, issues of being hostage. With Fatima, I'm thinking about Notebook LM, for example, and going, well, we all know, we've been around long enough that we've seen Google introduce new tools which are absolutely phenomenal and work on them for a while and then abandon them and leave them with no modifications, no updates, and then a couple of years later go and say, well, we're actually canceling this tool. And you invested into it. So we know, for example, that there are a number of people who are preparing alternatives to Notebook LM or offering there's even an open notebook tool which is in development, not as well developed as Notebook LM, but certainly usable. I think the people in XDA are talking about that one. Okay, it's time, folks. So I want to say, and Eugenie's saying, Kumo Space, networking room, go on, join the competition, do the networking. And Naz is talking about vendor lock-in as well. Okay, so hi everybody. I'm just closing the sharing, and I want to say thank you very much for your attention, for your participation, for your persistence through the workshop. I hope you found things that are useful to you. Thank you to Irene for providing support and sharing links as we go through. And looking forward to future conversations and interactions with everybody here. Thanks all. Back to you, Eugenie.
Thank you so much, Tony, for the demonstration, and also Irene for all the links as you've just mentioned. We really appreciate this session. I know oftentimes we hear of these tools being used, and I've written down numerous ones, but it's nice to have a workshop where we actually are given time to play with things. So thank you so much for that. And then, yes, as was mentioned in the chat room, please, everyone, during break times, do visit Kumo Space. If you are going to join us this afternoon during the last session, there will again be lucky draws taking place. Thank you so much, and then we